It's 2024 and F1 finally has a title fight on its hands, the likes of which we haven't seen since 2021. Although it's not as close as it was that year, it's been just as interesting. In Austin, Max won the sprint race before Lando lost 3 positions from pole at turn 1. Verstappen and Norris then went head to head again at the end of the back straight, but with Max manipulating the rules to his advantage, he won out, with McLaren throwing a hissy fit as per. Then in Mexico, Sainz got pole with Verstappen out-qualifying Lando before the 2021 version of Verstappen showed up, and he pushed Norris off track before hamassing it down the inside at the next turn, earning him 20 seconds of penalties. Lando would finish second in the race, and Max finished in 6th place, and so going into the next race, the gap is now at 47 points. But at least we have something to talk about with 4 races of the season left. Flashback to 5 years ago and it's a completely different story. Lewis Hamilton had already clinched the title in Austin to conclude what had been a pretty boring year for F1, minus the German Grand Prix and illegal Ferrari engines of course. But F1 in 2019 had one more trick up its sleeve. Interlagos. Red Bull always go well around Brazil, and so even when F1 was still in North America, Max Verstappen was being touted as the winner of this year's edition of the Brazilian Grand Prix, 1 year on from being taken out by an angry, lapped baguette.
Yeah, I know what to say. I hope I can't find him now in the paddock, because then he has...
What a fucking idiot!
Qualifying was actually pretty good though. Carlos Sainz was unable to set a lap time as his car died on the back straight, and it was a very typical bottom 5 of both Williams and Stroll. Giovinazzi had a spin on his final run in Q2 which ruined everyone's lap, and so that meant both Renaults were knocked out along with Perez and Norris, as both Haas cars got through along with Gasly and Raikkonen. Q3 saw Verstappen, the Ferraris and Hamilton battle it out, and in the end Max was the only one to improve as he cleared Vettel by nearly a 10th to get just his 2nd pole at the time. Gasly was an impressive 7th for Toro Rosso, and Grosjean was 8th for Haas in front of Raikkonen and Magnussen. Leclerc would also start 14th because of a 10th-place grid penalty for changing components. On the race start, Verstappen beat Vettel off the line before Hamilton went around the outside of Sebastian in turn 1. Everyone kept it clean and the order stayed the same for the first few laps. On lap 8 though, Ricciardo forgot that he can't brake as late as he did at Red Bull and spun Magnussen around as he also got a broken front wing and a 5-second penalty. Hamilton tried an undercut on Verstappen on lap 20, but little did he know, the Red Bull pit crew were cooking up something devious, as on the following lap, Max came in to cover Lewis and they did a 1.8 second pit stop. Then their hard work was ruined by Giga Kubica. Max was pissed and so overtook Leclerc at the final corner and then got Hamilton into turn 1. By lap 52, there had still been no retirements, and outside of the top 6, it was Gasly, Grosjean, Norris and then Sainz. Then Bottas and Mercedes had a rare retirement as he suffered a hydraulics issue and stopped on the straight just after the pit exit. This caused a safety car, and from here on out, chaos ensued. Verstappen pitted and Hamilton was told to box opposite Max, which did not work out for him as the only cars between them were lapped and would therefore get out of the way. Get any flashbacks? Just a quick update on the top 10 now on the safety car restart. It's Hamilton on 15 lap old mediums in first, Max on basically new soft tyres, and then Vettel, Albon, Leclerc, Gasly, Grosjean, Sainz, Raikkonen and Giovinazzi. Into turn 1, Verstappen went around the outside of Hamilton as Albon pulled an almost identical move on Vettel to put him in 3rd. Max pulled a gap on Lewis and Albon stayed close behind. But behind them, an Italian civil war was just getting started. Leclerc sent it into turn 1, catching Vettel off guard, but the German would get a much better run going down the straight. As Vettel overtook him, he gave Leclerc a slight tap which blew up Charles' right front tyre and gave Sebastian a puncture, for which he then retired. Ferrari had gone from a nailed on 4-5 to a double DNF. And of course...
The puncture, what the hell is he doing? Sorry. Puncture. Mine! Go! Put the sign! Bow!
At the restart, Verstappen got away, and at turn 10, Hamilton made a lazy move on Albon which spun the tyre driver around and essentially retired him with 1 lap to go. Hamilton was slow on the exit because of this, and so Gasly and the Toro Rosso pounced and moved up into 2nd place. This incident was a pretty nailed on 5-second penalty for Hamilton, but they hadn't given it at the time, so this meant it was Gasly versus Lewis for P2. Pierre defended for his life the whole lap against one of the many rocket ships Mercedes built, and it ended with a drag race to the line. Outstandingly though, Gasly actually started to pull away near the end of the straight, and he finished ahead of Lewis by just 62 milliseconds to secure his first podium in what had been a tumultuous year for him. It had started out well as he got the Red Bull seat due to Ricciardo jumping ship to Renault and because of his great performances in 2018. Then it became obvious that he couldn't really handle the pressure against Verstappen and was dropped at mid-season for Albon at Belgium. despite being told he would keep the seat. Then tragedy struck as the world lost Antoine Hubert during the Belgium weekend, who just so happened to be a very close friend of Pierre's. In the second half of the season leading up to this race, he had scored points on 4 different occasions for the pretty mediocre Toro Rosso team before securing this incredible P2 at Brazil. He had seemed much more at home in Toro Rosso, away from the expectations and pressure of Verstappen, and so this result was well deserved and a fitting way to give back to his late friend Antoine Hubert. This result also helped him out in the driver's standings, as he was in the middle of a fierce battle with Albon and Sainz for the bragging rights of finishing best of the rest in 6th place. And despite them doing the same time in both Red Bull and Toro Rosso, the P2 helped him beat out Albon by just 3 points, although he did lose out to Sainz by 1. It was also nearly enough for Toro Rosso to take 5th off of Renault, but they did miss out by 6 points in the end, despite getting 2 podiums in the year. Moving back to the final result, because there is a lot more, this was the first time since 1991 that drivers using Honda powered cars had finished 1-2, proving that McLaren had completely fumbled the Honda deal and it wasn't actually the worst engine in existence. To complete the top 10, Sainz finished 4th after starting from 20th and last on the grid, and yet we did not see him make a single move thanks to the race director. But remember that slam dunk 5-second penalty for Hamilton? Well, that wasn't given until after the podium celebrations, and so Sainz was promoted to 3rd with Hamilton dropping down to 7th place. This had completed an incredible drive from Sainz, which deserved a lot more plaudits, as he went from last to a podium in a McLaren which still wasn't fully there yet. 2019 had been a much better year than the previous, but they still weren't the quickest out of the midfield pack. This was also McLaren's first podium since Magnussen's at Australia 2014, and the new youngest podium, beating out the 2008 Italian Grand Prix. The stats keep on coming though, as this was the first race since Germany 1994 in which 2 drivers scored their first podiums, and the first time in the turbo hybrid era where a Mercedes or Ferrari were not present on the podium. A nice touch as well was that all 3 drivers were graduates of the Red Bull driver program. Say what you want about the Red Bull Driver Academy, but there's no doubts that they find some incredible drivers. As well as this, it was the last podium for the name Toro Rosso as they became AlphaTauri in 2020, and Sainz was the first Spaniard on the podium since Alonso at the 2014 Hungarian Grand Prix. A pretty historic podium, I would say. But the good vibes keep on coming, because after initially finishing 5th and 6th for an incredible point haul, the Alfa Romeos were bumped up to 4th and 5th as Raikkonen and Giovinazzi secured 22 massive points for the team, which would keep them 8th above Haas and Williams. Ricciardo would also sneak into 6th with Norris coming 8th, Perez finishing 9th and Kvyat rounding out the top 10. A feel good result for everybody as F1 headed to Abu Dhabi for a boring as season finale. And so in summary, the 2019 season was scattered with banging races and surrounded by many ballfests. The title fight was between Hamilton and Bottas, and so it was practically meaningless, and Red Bull and Ferrari weren't quite up to scratch yet to offer a challenge to Mercedes. Without cheating, of course. This was supposed to be the second from last year before big regulation changes would come along to hopefully end the Mercedes dominance. Instead, COVID came along, gave us a pretty good year, albeit with Mercedes walking both championships, delayed the regulations by another year and subsequently birthing the 2021 season. One of the best in the sport's history. Gasly would win in the sister team before Albon had even got his first podium for Red Bull, and 5 years on from the awful Belgian weekend, Antoine Hubert continues to be remembered by the world of F1. Rest in peace.